Well, hello, folks. Welcome back to our weekend edition of the ICT Mentorship Commentary. And as you can see here, we have the economic calendar. Before I get into it, it will be brief. I'm going to cover gold, oil, and S&P as an extra, euro pound, and our standard euro and cable, as well as dollar, obviously. But I mentioned in multiple reviews and commentaries and such that the first 2 years I did the mentorship, I worked through Passover, and I regretted it, and I warned it I would not be doing that anymore. I felt terrible about doing it, and I've made mention several times that I was going to return back to fasting on that week as it relates to the markets, money, all those things. So what does that mean? Today's video will be the last video you see until we get to the following Monday. So in other words, not the Monday coming, but then the following Monday. And because you won't be getting a Wednesday video from me this coming Wednesday or next weekend, because I'm celebrating a holiday with my family, I don't want to be looking at the news. I won't be on Twitter, so don't panic. Okay. I didn't run away. I didn't close up the mentorship. I didn't go into hiding in a bunker. I didn't do any of those things. Just drawing closer to the Lord, and I want to keep my focus on that. So I won't be watching the news. I won't be looking at social media. I won't be reading any emails. So just be patient. If something happens that you lose connectivity to the mentorship, trust me, you will be fixed, okay? You'll have something done for your account, but it won't be done during next week. So imagine a holiday, okay? We're treating it just like we did with around Christmas time, where we don't do anything. Now, that doesn't mean that you get less because of that, because the following week, in other words, after next week, the very next Monday, I guess it'd be better if I pull up a calendar. Okay, so here's where we're on the 4th. So this entire week, I will not be doing anything with the markets. I'm not looking at charts. I'm not talking about the markets. I'm not tweeting. None of that stuff. On the 13th, I'll provide you a price action lesson for next Wednesday's absence of content, and Thursday or Tuesday, I don't know which day, so I don't know exactly what day it is, but you'll have an additional price action lesson. That it won't be like, let's look at charts right now. I'm going to teach you something you can use to go into the marketplace and compensate for the Wednesday and weekend edition that you're not getting next week. You're going to get 2 additional videos, so you'll still have your Wednesday video on the 15th, and on the 18th, I'll have the weekend review. So on Monday, I will kind of go over what I anticipate for that week. So there will be a regular analysis in there, but it'll be a price action lesson in that video. Then we'll have our standard midweek review and in the weekend edition. But I just don't know if we're going to have a video on Thursday or Tuesday of that week, which will just be a lesson. Okay? So you'll still get the same amount of content, but yeah, I'm asking all of you, and I know some of you aren't Christian. I know you don't believe in Christ, but I do. So I'm asking you to respect that. I know it's a business. I know you're part of a mentorship and all that, but I had to do what's right for me, and I didn't get here without him. So I have to give him all my time and focus, and I'm excited to do so. So today, when this video shuts off and it's uploaded, you guys are watching it, just know that there will be an absence of ICT, and it's actually a good thing. Okay, it might be a good thing for you also to just rest. Don't do anything next week with the market. Don't look at anything, and don't watch the news. Just simply unplug, and I need to do that with my family. So I will resume. I'll probably tweet on the 12th. That'll probably be the first tweet you'll see from me, so that way you guys know I'm back on the saddle again. Okay. All right. So anyway, on the economic calendar for Monday. Bank of Canada Business Outlook Survey, high impact for 10:30 a.m. 6 p.m. New Zealand dollar. We have business confidence, medium impact. Australian trade balance, medium impact, 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, we have Australian dollar cash rate, high impact, 12:30 a.m. Aussie dollar RBA rate statement, high impact, and 9:30 p.m. medium impact financial stability review. OPEC meetings for Wednesday, they're tentative, and FOMC meeting minutes for dollar index, again, that's tentative as well. So Thursday, 2 a.m., medium impact GDP for cable, 7:30 a.m. New York session, high impact ECB monetary policy meeting accounts, and at 8:30 a.m., high impact Canadian dollar employment change, unemployment rate, and the dollar unemployment claims. Expect shock and awe on that number as well next week if you're participating and speculating on what effects these jobless claims will be on the markets here in the U.S. And then core PPI, medium impact for the dollar. And 10 a.m., we have consumer sentiment, medium impact for dollar. Bringing it into a close for economic calendar for Friday, April 10th, 8:30 a.m., high impact CPI and core CPI for the dollar index. All right, so here's our daily chart of the dollar. All right, so I mentioned how we could possibly get up in here. We were watching this volume imbalance in here. Price moved through that. And I said if we did go through this, this is a balanced price range. If it were bearish in an ideal situation, this would not see the consequent encroachment or the midpoint of that. Now, a lot of you are looking at this here, from this low to this high, that in the form of a SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. And it is, if you were just looking at that singular candle. Because we have this one singular candle over here, that's the reason why I outlined it and mentioned it as a balanced price range. So we have price action rule, or I have price action rules that you're learning. And I'm not 100%. I've never claimed to be 100%. But nonetheless, the rules that I use for that is we don't like to see it go through midpoint. If it does, then it's underlyingly bullish. Okay. We have seen price completely close all the way in and also all the way back up into here. So I'm just going to adjust this to show you what has happened there. Okay. So we've seen essentially this entire imbalance here be filled in. It's been completely rebalanced. But what I have seen and mentioned last time we talked was we closed above the consequent encroachment of that balanced price range. Now, by itself, that would be extremely bullish underlying from me. So in other words, I would just anticipate 103.80, 82 from here, and that would basically be very comfortable for me to say that, stand on that, and wait for it to unfold. When we get to gold, you'll see why I have a little bit of trepidation about that, and I'm uncertain. Add to it also that we're going into a holiday. It's Passover. And while you may not believe in it, you may not believe in anything as far as spiritual things, that week has a particularly low volume. It just, there's a lot of traders that don't trade. And the markets usually show that in its delivery. So it usually is not very eventful. It's not very impactful. But we have basically chaos all around the world. Global economies are in turmoil. We have a virus that's moving around. War drums are beating. It's just so many things going on that the general standard expectation I have for that week, generally every year, will probably not be normal. And I'm okay with that. I've already elected to take myself away from it anyway. And unless you know exactly what you're willing to assume in terms of risk and comfortable with that, I would suggest you do the same thing. Okay? So when we get to gold, I'll talk more about this. Just remember that the consequent encroachment, okay, and that's essentially this. We're just going to put a line here. I'm going to rough it you guys can determine exactly what that midpoint is for this range on both of these candles. And we closed above it. So I said if we closed above that, we didn't do that on Thursday. Notice that. We went to it and through it just a little bit, but we didn't close above it until on Friday. And that, to me, by itself, is bullish for dollar because it should not have gone through this balanced price range midpoint or consequent encroachment. The first thing that jumps in my mind in terms of experience and seeing things for almost 30 years now, I just know that that's generally bullish, but there's so many things on the horizon. I'm very reluctant to more or less say, okay, this is what I believe. Okay, and when you're here as a student, one of the things you have while watching an entire year with me is there's going to be days and weeks where I'm extremely confident about what I think is going to happen, and it happens. Sometimes I'm confident about something, and then it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does. There's other times, and this is very important because you want to give yourself the permission, because most of you, especially the younger guys that come in here, you don't ever give yourself the flexibility to allow yourself to not know something. Okay? And there's so many things coming at me with decision-making points, things that would be highly critical for a analysis or an idea that I expect to see in price. They're coming and they're being overridden by something else. So there's so much chaff basically right now that I can't really focus in on one particular thing. And because of that, I'm very cautious. Maybe I'm too cautious. Maybe I'm being overly cautious. But I'd rather be overly cautious and safe than to try to get in here and act like John Wayne and just to be able to say, look, I was able to call it right through all of this chaos. I've already seen enough to feel confident that my tools hold up well. What'll mess up is me, okay, the human element, because I'm seeing all the effects and also hearing, from all of you that are emailing me, the things that you're seeing where you're at. So all those things have become an information overload for me. So I have to absolutely unplug and try to get a fresh perspective after being away from the markets because I'm so close to the tree, I can't see the forest. And it's very problematic. It's almost like I have paralysis analysis. Okay, so I can't really focus in on one particular thing. And some of you may say, well, you've been doing this too long, or you're supposed to be ICT. You should be immune to that. Surprise, I'm not an AI. I am absolutely human. And I have the same difficulties when given like situations like this. I just don't trust my own analysis. And since I don't trust it, it would be very foolish for me to try to sell the idea that it's going to be this or it's going to be that. So I'm going to tell you in this video the things that I see and the things that it's creating as a problem for me to be able to be confident about what it is I want to focus in on or anticipate. Okay, so when in doubt, stay in out. That's what we're going to do. Okay, it's very simple. If you have a doubt and you're just completely paralyzed and you don't know what it is that you want to do or trust, and that might change. It could, if I was trading next week, Monday's trading may do something for me where it says, okay, now it's tipped its hand and made it very obvious. Or it may not do it until Wednesday, or it may not even do it at all. And that's the flexibility all of you have to have. I found in teaching the ladies in our group, they are more willing to say, okay, I don't know what's going on, and they keep their hands off. And there's a few of you that are in here that are very action oriented. Okay, you just get in there, you just keep doing. But by far and large, the ladies, the women in our group, they are very flexible in the sense that they realize there's uncertainty. They don't understand what it is they should be doing. And it's very easy for them to say, I'm not doing anything, I'm just going to watch. The gentlemen in our group have the caveman mentality, much like I did when I was 20. You want to go out there, club the market over the head, drag it back to your cave, and put its head on the wall and say, I did this, and beat your chest. And I get it. I've been there. I've done that. But this is a very hard climate for me. And I have no shame in telling you that I don't know. Right now, looking at the charts right now, I could sell this both ways. Now, I could literally outline this. Okay, we went up here, closed it in, and gold's going to be bullish for the next 3 weeks. And then now dollar's going to go down as a result of that, and fill in this, and then maybe run through that, and then ultimately the dollar's done. But what I see in this chart implies that there's something underlying that may be underway, and it has to do with war. I think we're probably going to drag Iran into a situation. We may be attacking Iran. I think the whole business taking our attention to down and around Venezuela, while that does have a oil related theme, okay, and we want to put our own choice of leadership in there like we've done in other countries. And I'm not a fan of that, so don't think that, I think that's a good thing. But, we like to be the hammer of the earth, but we just can't keep doing that type of thing. Okay, we can't. So at some point, we're going to have to pay for that, and it's going to be a heavy fine. So what this means to me is we could be seeing the oil markets heat up again. And I'll talk about that in a couple minutes when we get to oil. But I'm trying to flesh this out while I'm on the dollar, so that way you can refer back to these points while we were talking about the dollar. But if we go to war with Iran, oil's going to go crazy. It's going to go vertical. And dollar will spike on the basis of that because we have a petrodollar. So a strong oil market, very, very strong for the dollar over time. But right now, oil is very, very cheap. And I've already mentioned comments about Trump. It's bad for the industry, oil industry, yada yada yada. It's good for everybody. And look, I don't like paying for gas when it's expensive, but it's even harder for people that can't afford day to day eating, week to week on whatever they make at their jobs. When that pump price goes up high, it really hurts. And it's almost like a carrot dangling in front of everybody saying, look, gas prices are extremely cheap, really, really cheap right now, but you can't go nowhere. It's almost like nerve wracking. So I know I'm a little bit of a ramble right now, but I'm trying to articulate what I have been concerned about since Wednesday. And we saw the mention of Trump saying, he's going to deliver a very hard and heavy, serious price for Iran if they do some sneaky attack. Okay, well, here's the thing. For him to tweet that, everybody already knows what that means. He's itching to, flex and show everybody that what he's capable of doing, because he's now a wartime president. So, in his words, there has to be some kind of a war, because he's already getting backlash from people saying, he's calling himself a wartime president. So it's going to be very easy for him to go in and start doing something in a theater capacity for war. Okay, so that in itself will drive the oil markets crazy. It'll drive it crazy. It may be that we don't see it this particular week, and it may be the following week that happens, or I'll be very surprised if we run right into war time scenarios next week. So, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what they're planning, but based on what they're talking about, and I've already mentioned this before we even seen all this stuff happening, this is all leading to war. So you don't fight a virus with a tank. And we're seeing that type of military equipment line up all around the East Coast, the West Coast, and all the southern border states. Okay, and you're not seeing it because you're not allowed to be out there, but people are recording it, people are seeing it, and now they're putting stiffer fines in that you can't be out there or you're going to potentially face jail time. I believe they mean that because they're releasing prisoners from prison because of the COVID-19 disease. which to me doesn't make any sense because, to me, it seems like they're making room to be able to put people in jail if they violate with civil unrest, because right now in the U.S., our prisons are overpopulated. So it just feels like they're making room for those types of things to happen, and to, I guess, get the picture across to everybody else. Look, stay off the streets. And to me, it just feels like they've opened the streets up and got the civilians out of the way, because we're probably going to have an event on the mainland. And that's what I've been more or less talking about on Twitter. But I shut up, and I'm not going to talk about it no more. What I've said, I've said. I'm not deleting anything. But here, I have a little bit more liberty, and I'm going to say what I think. I think that we're going to see some event. Is it a black flag event where it's something that we call something as an outside entity attacking us, but it really isn't? Or is it really an outside entity causing some kind of wartime scenario on the mainland of the U.S.? I don't know which one that is. Either one is the same scenario. It's the same. So it's a lot easier to get people to be out of the way when it starts, when they have quarantined everyone. And I'm not going to be surprised if this week the remaining states in the U.S. are completely shut down, like the majority of them are, where they are stay at home and only leave if you got to get, emergency or food. But all of those things have been weighing on me over the week, and I'm trying to figure out where all this stuff fits together with price action. And because of that uncertainty, there's a lot of people wanting to buy gold. And I've already stated that I think gold has a real potential to hit 3,000 this year. 2,000, absolutely. And if we go to war, it will be there real quick. 2,000, that's what I'm referring to for gold if we go to war. Because of that, it's very hard for dollar and gold to trade in the same direction. And when they do trade in the same direction, that's a scalping scenario where you just want to be in and out. You're not trying to hold on to positions too long because the markets are decoupled there. And we're looking at it like a crossroads, or at least is how I'm interpreting it. My mind, my experience tells me that dollar is bullish because of the things I've outlined and we closed above here. Even though you understand this complete sell side delivery, when balance of buy side, it rebalanced to that price point here, you understand that there's a strong likelihood by itself, if we were just looking at this candle, nothing on the left of it, by itself, it lends well to expect it to go lower. Because we have this candle over here, one candle up and one candle down, and then we came back up here like that, we should never be at this level unless it's going to go higher. Okay, so either gold's going to stay in a longer term consolidation on its daily chart, and dollar's going to rally to take out its old high and run to 103.82, or I'm wrong and the dollar may go lower and allow gold to go higher. Okay, and initially that would be allowing the crude oil market to go up on any kind of wartime news, and then the dollar may shake out anybody. It may come down here at that point and maybe come down to this point here, and then rally over a longer intermediate term basis. But short term, those are the types of whiplash scenarios that I'm expecting. And I don't feel confident, whereas you hear me talk about in commentary, I'll say, this is what I think is going to happen. And when I can articulate what would make that wrong, I'll say, okay, but if it doesn't do this is what it's going to do. But I'm saying I believe it's going to go up or down, whatever one it is. I don't use a plan B scenario. Okay, we got new members in here. One of them got flipping on Twitter and almost went off. Okay, but there's never a plan B here. Okay, either I'm right or I'm wrong. It's simple as that. So right now I'm at a position where I don't have the conviction to be able to say this is what I believe is going to happen, and therefore it's this. Because I can argue the point right now when I don't have a whole lot of those opportunities to do so. If you go back and listen to all the old commentaries, I don't have this creep in that often, but it does usually happen. And it usually happens the first week of the month. It's something I've told you in the core content. The first month of every single month is generally price action that I don't really care too much about. I want to watch the the effects of non-farm payroll. And if you look at that, we've only seen it go up. So again, if we take this equation, or part of the equation out with the balanced price range here, if you take that out, that would simply make it easier for me to say, okay, we came back, we rebalanced, and this was a Judas swing for the first week of April, and now we'll look for it to go lower and trade down into here. Okay, but we don't have that. I have this balanced price range, and we have gold flexing. We have the oil market potentially, signaling that there's going to be war. We have Trump signaling there's probably going to be retribution to Iran in a capacity that is meant to scare everyone on the planet to mess with us. And the virus, the economic impact and implosion that we're seeing, there's so much coming at me that I just don't have the clarity to say to you. And I hope you guys can appreciate this level of honesty, because I just don't know at this moment what, if I was in the marketplace, which I'm not trading with live funds. I've already told you this. If I were in that market capacity where I had money at risk in the trade, okay, I would be getting out. Okay. I don't have the visibility or clarity right now to be able to say, this is what I believe is going to happen. As I've indicated, I could sell this both ways where we're at. And whenever situations are like that, to me, that's gambling. And if it's like gambling, if it's a 50-50, then I'm not trading with that information. And I don't want you to welcome that as an analyst. If you're looking at your charts and you don't have an overwhelming sense of confidence about one particular outcome in the marketplace, in other words, a scenario that you think is most likely to unfold, if you don't have that, don't do anything. Just watch it. Really just paper trade it. Don't even have an opinion about it. Say, okay, let's see what happens. And many times you'll see that if you do that, you will have a great sense of relief because you would have been wrong. Now, I'm not trying to avoid being wrong. I'm teaching you how to welcome those environments where you're likely to be wrong, but not hurt you financially. It might hurt your ego. It might hurt your pride because something might happen in the charts and you'll say, oh, I knew it. No, you didn't know it. You didn't know that, because if you knew it, you would have took it. You would have traded it. You had another scenario looming in the forefront of your mind that could potentially happen too. Now, as a new trader, you feel that all the time. Okay, so that's a normal event for you. Okay, and that's normal for everyone that's new. You don't know what's going to happen. Everything feels 50-50. But over time, you will learn to trust, like you hear me do in the commentaries. I believe this is what's going to happen. And then we watch it unfold. A large degree of percentage is most likely me being right in the commentary, but that's not what I'm trying to sell you on the idea of. I'm not trying to convince you or lead you into the assumptions that you need to be right as much as I am, because I am wrong. And this is an environment where I already know I'm likely to be wrong. And I'm not trying to spare myself the indignation and the embarrassment of being wrong. I could care less. I know what I'm looking at doesn't translate into a high probability scenario. And yes, remember I said this is going to be a short video and we haven't even got off this chart yet. So the idea is you need to know when you're likely to be wrong. And don't be afraid to admit it, because that's how you stay in this game. It's not making a lot of winning trades. It's avoiding the times when you already know in your heart that you're probably wrong, but you have this compulsion to just get in there and see what happens. But you can't experiment with money, live money, to see what happens and then say, okay, if I win, I'm a smart person. I figured out the market. I cracked it. I'm going to go on social media, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you beat your chest. That's what everybody does wrong. Or rather, if you have that assumption that it may not be what you think is going to happen in the marketplace. In other words, your probabilities are 50-50, but you just got to get in and you click the button. And then when you're wrong, you're really going to resent that. You're going to beat yourself up. You're going to tell yourself, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? And then what you're going to do is you're going to put so many negative thoughts in your brain, and it will feed itself. So the next time you see a trade, you're going to remember all that pain you put yourself through. So it's very important that you say, what elements have to be in place for me, or an absence of them, for me to say I am not engaging the market, because there's a 50-50 chance, and solid trades, strong analytical trades that have high probability are so heavily imbalanced to one side or the other. In other words, it just is obvious that it wants to go higher. That's a low resistance liquidity run. Month one, I teach you all that. So right now, I don't have that framework for a very easy low resistance liquidity run on one side or the other. Right now, I can make the case for both. And that's my point. Okay, so for the newest members, this is still not going to mean much to you. You're going to feel like I don't get what he's saying. But that comes by with a full year under your belt. That means being with me for an entire calendar year, 12 months. You'll know what I mean by that, because you will see there were periods where I didn't know what was going to happen, or I think might see this happen and I was wrong. But over a large sample size of weak data, in other words, weekly data, not in the sense like strong versus weak, but the weekly data that I force you all to see, by with me calling specific things in the marketplace and watching them unfold, there's a very high degree of precision and consistency available. But you won't appreciate that if you're new here. If you're new, it's going to sound like I'm just making excuses, or it's going to sound like I'm not all I cracked up to be, or now I'm really showing I don't know what I'm doing, because these are all normal feelings as a new trader here or a new student here. Everybody had some period of time in this mentorship, if they've been here for a full year, where you were like, okay, he's losing his Midas touch, his lucky streak is running out, but then it kicks back in again. I'm just telling you, as best I possibly can on how to articulate it, the factors that are influencing my inability right now to be able to dial in. I'm also talking about the very things that I'm wrestling with that I see in the chart. So it's not like I'm saying, okay, there's an opportunity here and let's just sit on the sidelines. That would be a disservice to you. You pay me to show you what I think is going to happen in the marketplace, and then give you the understanding of and the reasoning, okay, the rationale behind what brings me to these conclusions. Now, when we watch how I call the market and it pans out, because I'm showing you in the chart what led to those developments, okay, and ultimately what made that move happen. That's what the commentaries are. But this type of lesson, while it seems like, well, come on, now you're just talking too much, just make it simple. There's nothing for you to talk about, okay, and be done with it. You're wasting my time. If you feel that, you're going to fail here. Don't continue. Because if that's your mindset, and it's not because I'm offended by you, or, I don't want to be bothered by someone like that, or, everybody has to have a cult-like mentality and worship me. That's not what I'm saying. You have a mental barrier that will impede your ability to develop here, because you have preconceived notions about how you should learn. If you know how you should learn, then you don't need a teacher. You know everything. So I'm telling you, this is one of those moments where you have to be submissive, not to me, but to reality. Right now, it is hard. It's very, very, very hard. Okay? So, if I'm admitting to you that I cannot sit down and say, okay, with a great deal of confidence and clarity, this is what's going to happen, why would you ever imagine you could do it? If you're here as a new student, unless you have a previous understanding about the marketplace and you've been consistent with it, and it's telling you another scenario that I'm outlining here, and you don't feel the factors that I've had and just recently commented in this video thus far, then do what you want to do. And you'll have a lesson from that. If you're right, you're right. But in my opinion, anyone that makes a right call right now, don't attribute that as genius. Okay? Attribute that as luck, because I had 9 months of that back in the 90s. And trust me, when it goes away and reality hits, it's very painful. And I'm telling you, if you're new, how to digest what I'm telling you in this video with a great deal of balance. You want to learn from someone that knows when they were most likely going to incur a loss, pain, adversity, because that means that this person knows what it's like to be there. And that's the benefit of having a mentor. Okay, most mentors don't have that level of experience. I got almost 3 decades of experience in this stuff. So I know when I got hurt. I know when it feels unplugged, like I don't feel in sync with the marketplace. It's given me too many things that could potentially be the outcome. And when I don't see that, it's imperative for me as your mentor to tell you those moments and also to articulate and tell you what gives me that adversity. Over time, you will pick up on that as well, and you'll start seeing it. Many times you'll start feeling it before I actually bring it to light in the videos, because we only talk 2 times a week. So then you'll know you're learning. The benefit of being here for an entire year is that you will see there isn't a lot of times like this. But when you're here and you're new, okay, or if you're in here just for a couple months and you hear me talk like I'm talking now, it sounds like, oh, his system's falling apart. You have no idea. You seriously have no idea how many times I've had to answer that question since 2016. And it's always the new people. Aren't you afraid because you're teaching it's going to fall apart? No. Do you think you're seeing everything fail? I'm seeing big order blocks failing. You're seeing candles that you are calling an order block when they're not order blocks. You're trying to stand on infancy versus almost 3 decades of experience. Okay? I know that this stuff isn't going to stop working. Okay? It's going to continue to work until the markets are gone completely. And then you don't have to worry about it then, because there's nothing to trade. But the markets will trade. And I had members email me and ask, with all this stuff going on, should I abandon Forex? Are they going to come out with a new digital dollar? And if we go to one currency, blah, blah, blah. We are trading Forex for a while. Okay? There's no reason to worry about it. Other countries are not going to say, okay, we're going to the digital dollar. It's going to be the new reserve currency, and we're all going to take the mark. And I don't see that scenario here. I think that we are working towards a one world government, yes. But to completely abandon Forex, no, I don't think we're there yet. So if that's been your question, I know about a dozen of you have had that question, and Zoe, you're in my thoughts right now as I'm talking about that. So just know that that's your answer. I don't think that we have anything to do in terms of abandoning Forex right now, because there's currencies to pair against. So, and that will still be the case even if they release the digital dollar, and it's just going to create more movement in the marketplace, and that's what we want. But right now we have real things to juggle and work with. So again, in closing, so I can go to the hourly chart here, just know that I could sell this to you both ways. And if I was a charlatan, okay, I could make a video with half my subscription base and say, okay, it's going to go up here. And the other half of the subscription base, I'd say, okay, now it's going to go down here. And I could wait and see, and half of you would be like, okay, he said the dollar was going to go down to there, and look, at it went, yeah. And then obviously I would be exposed as a fraud, but I would have a base that would still have faith in me as their cult leader. And this is not a cult, okay? I'm not a cult leader. I'm teaching you independent thinking, independent thought. And the only way that I can teach you that correctly, efficiently, and in truth is to show my hand to you when I have a weak hand. I'm not embarrassed to say what I don't know was likely to happen. You all know I'm very arrogant at heart. I'm very proud of what I've been allowed to have with this insight. But I'm also humble in these moments because I know my limitation. And right now I'm at that wall where I just can't break through. And I know how to resolve it. I have to get away from it. I have to stop looking at it. And this is how you do it as well. So it's not like, okay, well, that's your weakness and you got to deal with that, but how should I do it? I'm telling you how to do it. I'm teaching you how to break through those barriers when you have analysis. And it may not be all these things happening, because I've had lots of people, in almost 4 years now doing the mentorship, where they have, in my mind, the markets were really clear, but they would say, I just can't see it. But I'm telling them what's going to happen in the reviews. It's like they're not listening. And some of them are the students that are still struggling. I just can't see it working. You keep saying it works, and it doesn't work. Well, it's working every week. Okay, I mean, the moves are happening. So what's the common denominator? The perception that these particular students have. It's not a weakness on my part as a teacher, and it's not a weakness on their part as a trader. It's their weakness in forcing their assumptions on the marketplace. Okay, they're imposing their will. It should be this. It shouldn't be that, and that's a growth. That's a growing pain. You got to go through that, and there's simply no way to shorten that curve, but just to plow right through it. And it may be longer than you want it to be, and you may have to quit trading. It may not be something you can do, and I can't fix that. That's a reality. I know I quit dozens of times. Okay, in the 90s, I quit so many times it was unbelievable. But you can see where I'm at. So it's normal to feel that way. But just know that if you're new here and this doesn't feel right, it doesn't sound like the ICT you thought you should be listening to, this is the ICT you need to listen to. Because these moments, this is where I lost fortunes. Real money, losing, leaving my accounts, blowing accounts. It's in these environments that it happened in, because you feel like you're not productive. You feel like you're not doing the right thing. And it's a 50-50 chance. You still got a 50% chance of being right. You only have a 50% chance of being wrong until you put that trade on. And then you have a 100% chance of being wrong, because you won't get out when you should. And then when it drops into a specific number of loss and you didn't put a stop loss on, or you start opening your stop because you don't want to be wrong, because you don't want to put any regret on yourself because you shouldn't have done it, but you did it. You know what I'm talking about. You've been there. And if you haven't been there, don't listen to this video and you will have to come back to it. Matter of fact, in your notes, really put this video in there. And when you can't think about what you should be doing for trades, this is the video, okay? That's the one. This is the one you come to, because this is the stuff that I needed to learn from somebody that understood it, but no one was teaching it. No one did it. Larry Williams he dwarfs me. He's got 50 years plus in experience. He still could not teach me what I'm teaching you. I'm walking through this every single week with you all. He's not doing that. I'm explaining exactly what I'm thinking about, the problems that I have incurred by having that information in front of me, and then telling you what I'm doing about it, and admitting that, okay, I have tools and I could make this scenario sound like a bullish scenario or a bearish scenario. And I generally don't have that issue every week. Like, I don't have that. Like, I'm very confident when I'm sitting down with this, and I'll tell you, this is what I think is going to happen. But if you don't give yourself the flexibility, if you don't allow for these, I guess, moments of humanity to materialize, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to do things impulsively, and you cannot attribute that as prowess or successful characteristics or traits of a trader if you are right. It's it's very hard for the new student to understand what I'm saying. And this is why you have to be here for a full year, because you'll see, oh yeah, I know now what he means by that. Because you've seen the ebb and flow, the up and down, the good periods where it's just so easy. And then there's times where you just don't know what you're supposed to do. And you have to sit still and be patient and trust that the tools will align when the market becomes one-sided again. And I'm not talking about it needs to be in a trending market, because I have goobers in the past try to say, he's only right when it's in a trending market. No, you've seen, obviously, it doesn't have to be in a trend. We could day trade, short-term trade. It doesn't make a difference. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what I've outlined in month 1 content. The structuring of a low resistance liquidity run that's so obviously slanted for one side over another. It's so overwhelmingly bullish that it should not be bearish. We don't have that in a dollar. Okay, just know that. Now I have to go to the hourly chart because it's driving me crazy myself. That's some good stuff I just gave you, by the way. All right, so here is the hourly chart. Good gracious, we've been talking for a long time on this dollar chart. You probably thought this video froze up, didn't you? One of those short videos, Michael. You know what that means. 4 hours, epic mini series. All right, so here we have the market coming back. It's completely rebalanced the fair value gap here up to the bearish order block. To me, like I said, as everything I outlined on that the daily chart is the same thing for the hourly. I want to believe, okay, my gut tells me I want to believe that the dollar wants to go higher, and you already see what's available up here. We have equal highs, we have a gap, a real gap, and to me, it just looks like it wants to go there. And if it can get there, it's going to be no problem for it to get to the 103. And if it's got any strength above that, 103.82 will be blown out. If we are holding a gun to Michael's head, okay, what would I think going into this new week would indicate that it's going to go lower? It needs to go below this right here. It has to punch through this order block, just completely decimate this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. In other words, BISI, fair value gap with the order block. If it goes through this down close candle, okay, if it does that, then we're going to see that lower level PD array for the dollar index, that little, I think it was like a pink box or whatever on the daily chart for the dollar. I think we'll trade into that if it breaks below here. That's what I would expect. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that you trade on that. And remember, everything I said before we got to the hourly chart. So don't let anything I say from this point on in the video convince you to take any action. That's why I jawboned as long as I did. Okay? Some of you come in here with selective hearing and you're like, oh, he just gave me a little tip. He just nudged me because he can't deal with signal service. That was his way of being sneaky and saying, okay, this is the trade you take. Please don't think that. Okay? Please don't think that. I'm telling you, don't do anything. Okay? That's exactly why I spent as much time as I did on that daily chart talking about all those things, because you will probably be wrong based on the things I'm outlining here. It's 50-50. That means, in my mind, that's zero opportunity of being right. There you go. 50-50 to me is the same thing as 100% likely to be wrong. That's my interpretation of it. All right? So we'll see if it wants to climb out of that this range between the two blue lines that makes up that balanced price range on the daily chart for the dollar. But if we see continuation upside, just draw your attention to that 102.50 area, and if it gets above that, then we'll see 103, and then study, if you're watching it next week, if it can get above 103, how much of expansion and magnitude and speed does it have above 103, because it goes to 103.82 next if it does. Otherwise, it's probably going to make an attempt to go below here. Now, you see how silly that sounds? I don't do videos like that, but because that's what's available in terms of we're looking at the market right now, it can go either way. And that's why I don't do analysis like that, because it's silly. I make fun of people on social media that talk like that. They plan B, plan A, and if it does this, it does that, draw wiggle lines, and then say, look, it almost looks like it did it. I was right. And that's not what you want to do as an analyst. That's not what I do as a mentor. I don't trade that way. Okay, and there just simply isn't enough in here to say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Now, some of you are new, or maybe you've been here for 6 months or less, and you say, okay, well, didn't we go down into this area here? Okay, and this is institutional entry drill. Yes, it would be if it were bullish, and I would say go with that and study that. But remember what I jawboned in the first 20 minutes or so of the video. I don't personally believe probabilities are there. Okay, so with that said, we'll go into the 15-minute time frame. Keep things moving along. All right, so we have the 15-minute time frame on the dollar index. We could see a little bit of a movement up here. Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Say it's bearish. Okay, say it wants to go lower. We went just a little bit, a hair or two, above that balanced price range boundary on the upper side. We could spike through that. Okay, so if I was making the market for the dollar and I wanted to take it lower, I would clear this area here, trade up into that 100.90, maybe 100.95, deny 101 to traders that want to take profit there, deny traders entry that want to short there, spike it just through here a little bit, and then send it down for this fair value gap here, and also take the low end of that balanced price range, which is this blue line here, trade down below that, and that would be my range of opportunity, which is about 100 points, 100 pips or so. And it still could stay sideways and uncertain in terms of bullishness or bearishness. That would be just one short-term scenario of algorithmic principles that I have in my mind. If I were making the market, I would take these highs out shallow, not give them 101, get real close to it, but not give them 101. And then send it lower and take out the 99.80 level. Rebalance to here, and then come back in the middle of the range. And then keep them in a guessing mode. Okay, that's what I would expect. So if you want to watch the market and see if it does that type of thing next week, that's something you can play around with and do some homework with it. Okay, so euro dollars is our daily chart. We did not get above the mean threshold of the bearish order block here. Pretty neat how that worked out. I said that I was not bullish on euro. I said that even though if we get a bearishness on the dollar, I didn't think that we would see upside on euro. And I had my attention really focused on euro pound, which we'll talk about after we talk about cable. And I said that euro pound looked weak, and they would play that scenario with a stronger cable than euro, and euro would probably stay within a range. And I don't know off the top of my head exactly what range I gave you, but nonetheless, it went a lot lower than I was expecting it to last week. Now we completely closed in the imbalance here. Let me take that box off now. I can appreciate what's being shown. So that fair value gap there, we completely ran through that, and no imbalance in here exists. We have an old low it's trading down into, and if we get upside on dollar, this low will give way, and we'll probably look to see 105s this week on euro if we get strength on the dollar. All right. If we get weakness on the dollar, this high will be the next target, the liquidity resting above that, and anything above that would take us right up into this area right here. Now I'm going to take this box off. I'll add it next time we talk if it's salient, but right now I'm going to remove it so you can see what I'm highlighting. So it's this single candle here, the gap that remains between this low and this high. So we have a sell side imbalance there. So that's our fair value gap, and it's also acting as a balanced price range. A portion of this up close candle and this candle here. In that area, my eye is looking at that, and that's what I was basically highlighting. So anything above this in the form of a buy side liquidity pool, it's not going to just shallowly run above that. If it's bullish on euro and bearish dollar, it's going to run up in here and rebalance that, and then we'll see if it can get above this. If it does in fact present itself as bullish, I don't personally see euro as strong enough to get up here. I'm just saying that if we get above this high, it's going to go here, not just a shallow run here. All right. And I feel almost shameful talking like this, but I know it's good medicine. It's telling you, it's proving, okay, beyond a shadow of doubt, that I don't have the one-sidedness that I demand and that I teach you how to find in month 1 of the mentorship. That's why I gave you that content, because it allows you to hit the ground running and start building that skill set of seeing when there's a real clear low resistance liquidity run in the marketplace. So we have seen a market maker sell model here on the hourly chart. Let me crush this up a little bit more. Consolidation, reaccumulation, smart money reversal, low risk sell, distribution, another level of distribution in here. All of this is the same area distribution. Okay, I did a video and I don't recall exactly where, but if you would remember what I'm talking about, there's a few of you in here that are just really, really good with keeping detailed notes about when I say or teach a specific thing. But I think I may have talked about it in Charter Member. I'm almost certain that's what I did. But for those individuals that are Charter members, and you know what I'm referring to here, whereas I talked about the illusion of time and the effects of it, where this high to this low, even though we're up here again, it looks like you got 1, 2 areas of distribution when it's all just one. Okay, we're looking at price forced and compressed inside of a particular candle because of the formation of this being based on time. Okay, it's not the chart. Okay, it's not the chart that gives us the setup. I have no faith in the chart or the patterns. Okay, I'm looking at price relative to time. So when I say that, I'm looking at this high and this low. And the amount of time we stay within that range is, to me, insignificant because the algorithm is going to do whatever it does. And there are specifics that I have in my repertoire for time that I'm not going to teach here because it's charter level. But this whole business here is all still the same distribution. It's not 1, 2, it's 1. All right. And there's a lesson I give you in the Charter members content that actually really develops this whole premise here. But nonetheless, we have a market maker sell model. And to me, it looks like it wants to go a little bit lower than it has. And I'm factoring this consolidation. And yes, it's a larger consolidation over here, like this whole business, and maybe run out to equal lows. And that might be what happens if there's a bullish dollar. But in here, this is all that would be required for me as a trade, or foundation of a trade, where this is the consolidation. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. That's good enough. Good enough for government work. All right, so here we have high end, and this is the low end. And that's how I view the initial consolidation. Now, you're going to look at that and say, well, why don't you have this low to this high? You can. Why didn't you use this low to this high? You can. I'm just saying that this is the easiest short-term swing low that has not been violated yet. We've went lower than this area here. So what remains? This low. Okay. Now I can turn this into a clinic and say, okay, well, it's this over this and not this, with all kinds of things that would be charter level, but you're not there yet. Okay. So that's the reason why I don't talk about every single thing, because I can make these videos 5 hours each time, and I just don't have the energy to do it. And plus, it would just create more email questions that I have to respond to and say, you'll learn that later in lessons that are down the road, and frustrate you more. So market maker sell model here. You can do a lot of study in this complete segment of price action if you look at it through the scope of a 30-minute chart, a 15-minute chart, a 5-minute chart, and a 1-minute chart. There's a lot of things that you can mine in terms of insight here that are just too numerous for me to talk about here, but it's better for you to go into the chart and study this particular form of price action, because this level here is the mean threshold of that daily bearish order block. So you have a real premium array that's foundational to this particular price move here unfolding. And it's not cherry picked, because I told you, this could potentially be a reaction, and we watched it unfold. Like, it was perfect. It rolled out and then went lower. So it's seeking some level of discount, some discount array in the form of an area that needs to be rebalanced, which there's none over here now. A small little one here that resides below that low. So that's the reason why that low jumps out at me. Fair value gap, old low, and it's not been traded to yet. So just watch 107.50. What is that? 107.50? Yeah. Let's call 107.50. What's the low on that candle? Yeah, 107.46. So just look for 107.50 to 107.40. Okay? And then we'll see if we can get down to here. And if it does blow through that, then obviously you know it's gonna reach below here. And if it does that, 106s will probably be given up, and now we'll trade it to the 105s. So we'll see what happens. But that's assuming a whole lot for next week, when I don't think the volume generally and historically is that typical. Okay. 15-minute time frame. You can see, really look at that. That's beautiful. Spikes up into that and down. Here's something I just tossed out to you a moment ago when we were on the hourly chart. Look at a 15-minute time frame and chart, watch and study, and there's a lot of things you can mine with that. Look at the idea of how I mentioned at the time when we were trading here in the week for trading close. I said, okay, we have to see if the market has a willingness to go into this level here, and then if it offers resistance, and does it top the market. And at the same time, it was at a bullish order block on the daily for the dollar index mean threshold. So at that moment, that was a decision point where the algorithms would, if it's going to be bearish for euro, that's when it should form. Okay, so what you want to do is go into your charts, like the 15-minute time frame. I'm not going to go into the 5-minute or 1-minute chart, but you want to look at, okay, from that moment on, we had an idea that it was likely to go lower. Now, it was almost a 50-50 scenario. So I said, let's see and watch and see if it gives us an indication it wants to go lower. The very next trading day, you already had your confirmation that it wants to go lower. So with that said, what do you do with that information? How do you back test, look for setups to practice, and then by doing so, train yourself to see these things before they happen in real time, or watch them develop in real time and see, okay, this is an ideal scenario. I'm going to pretend or paper trade or demo trade this setup. What would they look like? Well, at this point here, you're bearish, and it's confirmed once this day goes lower and it trades lower. Okay, so the very next trading day is in here, okay, or on the 30th. So you would be looking for up close candles to act as bearish order blocks. You would look for any kind of fair value gap. There's one in here. Comes up, hits that, and trades lower. And any type of retracement deep, okay, deep into the range that exists between the low it forms here and in the previous day, in the 30th. All of that is returning back to a premium. So we have old fair value gaps that you can extend out in time, and it finds resistance there. Wait for displacement. Wait for a break in market structure. Here's a swing low, and it's relative equal lows. It breaks down. Does it want to go lower once it goes back up into that area? It consolidates and spikes through equal highs, then breaks down. When it breaks down, what are you looking for? You're looking for continuation lower and attack a pool of liquidity below the marketplace, because they rallied it up here. The algorithm it expresses price in a manner where it leads to people wanting to buy it. There's going to be liquidity resting below that. So in this area here, when it starts to break down, your eye goes right there and below it, because that's where the liquidity is going to be. And that's where it seeks. Okay. All in here, you want to look at a 5-minute and 1-minute chart, and you'll see all the things that we talk about in terms of fair value gaps that it trades up into, fills it, or bearish order blocks, and runs lower. Okay, that's institutional order flow. The framework would be, it breaks down, well, it breaks the market structure here, retraces back up, runs buy side liquidity. Well, why won't it go up here? It could, but we don't need that. When it breaks and has an imbalance to the downside, your attention goes here. So all in this price move here, you want to study a 5-minute and 1-minute chart. And the same things that you're going to see on a 1 minute and 5 minute chart is the same things that I talk about on a daily chart. It's fractal. And the same things that I'm outlining on that daily chart is the same things you're going to do on a weekly chart, and a monthly chart, and a 3-month chart, and a 6-month chart, and a yearly chart. You get what I'm saying? It's all the same thing. But you have to know what you're looking at based on the beginning of a move, which this move originated back here. So if it originates here, and we had the idea that it could likely happen, you give up 1 day of ideal entry. So what? Who cares? You're looking for setups to practice. You train yourself on 1 and 5 minute charts in hindsight, looking at many, many examples, and you'll see the same things happening on a 15-minute chart, and an hourly chart, a 4-hour chart, a daily chart, and then you'll determine where your comfort level is as a trader, so that way, as you learn all the content in the mentorship, you will eventually gravitate towards, okay, I want to trade a daily chart. I don't want to look at anything less than a daily chart, so I have to frame my setups on monthly and weekly charts. Okay, fine. There's no difference between that and using a 15-minute chart like I do, predominantly in the mentorship, and framing it on a 1-hour setup with the context of a daily chart move. Because that's what I do in commentary. I give you a daily chart setup, or context, rather, and then a hourly chart setup with a 15-minute basis for entry and management. That's the commentary. I force everyone in that. It forces you to have a daily perspective. It forces you on a day trader's mindset because of an hourly chart, and a scalper's mentality with the 15-minute time frame. So I'm forcing the easiest way of inviting every possible scenario for all of you collectively to work within the same data and context of me giving my commentary, and then building experience through the borrowing of my experience. So you go through the markets every single week with me, and I give you my idea about what I think is going to happen in the context of what it is I'm talking about, without throwing everything at you. And you're taking the content that you're learning each month and plugging those things in and seeing how they support, or maybe sometimes they don't support. And that creates a question. Well, why didn't he look at the COT hedging program? Because it was saying that the commercials were this, and he was talking about that. There's a reason for you to go in your journal saying, okay, why would this setup not require the COT hedging program? Why wasn't this a factor? And then 3-4 weeks later on, you will see something I'm talking about, and you'll see also the delivery of price after the fact, okay, which is the benefit of hindsight. Your answer will come to you because it'll be like, oh, I didn't see this other thing that I may have alluded to or just happened to be delivered in price. And you'll see, because it's always easier to see it in 2020, and I'm not here to try to do everything in mentorship content in these videos, because the videos would literally be too long and it would be too much information. Okay, so that's why it requires a lot of work on your part as a student, because the things that you're learning each month, it's not that you learn it by watching it and you forget it. You're supposed to be taking those ideas and seeing if there's any impact that supports, or does it cause a disconnection, or it doesn't agree with what I'm saying in my commentary. And over time, being exposed to that, you will learn far more than the people that just come in here and just listen to me talk about what I think is going to happen in the marketplace, and they cheat themselves of all the wonderful learning experience and that epiphany, that moments of astonishment where they're like, oh, I see it. Those individuals that do that type of work are the ones that are doing exceptionally well here. They are generally many times saying in their own notes, and some of them prove it to me, and they send an email to me, okay, and I find it weeks later because I'm always behind in my emails, and it'll be actually sent to me before I actually do my mentorship commentary, and it's what I end up saying, very close to it, but not verbatim, but they have the same ideas. And to me, that feels really wonderful, because that's what I want. I want you all to know what I'm likely to see or talk about before I do the videos. That's how you graduate. That's the sign of graduation here. When you no longer need me to point to something, you've already established it in your own analysis, and you're not surprised. It would be like, I don't even want to listen to Michael anymore, because I already come to this conclusion, and I'm not disrespected by that. In fact, I love that. That's my goal for all of you. I don't want you to hold my hand. I want you to say, okay, ICT, I appreciate it, but I'm letting go. I know what I'm doing now. That's your graduation. That's when you completed the mentorship. You see all these jokers out there pretending, oh, I went through the mentorship, I completed it. You didn't. Nobody's completed the mentorship. We have so much stuff to do. It's ridiculous. But the point is there's a defining moment, and that's it. That's how you know you got it. Okay. But anyway, you want to do the same thing all through here. Okay. And you want to look at the kill zones, and I'm not going to map the chart out here because that's your work. That's your homework, okay? But this is what you're supposed to be doing, not just now because we're going into a week where it's uncertain, but that's how you're supposed to be doing the back testing. That's what you're supposed to be doing with the commentaries. Like when I give these videos to you twice a week, you are supposed to be going into the charts and breaking them down on a 5-minute and 1-minute chart with the kill zones. Load the data on the chart and then draw your annotations the way you want to do it. I don't have indicators for MT4. So anytime you see an annotated chart, it's always me manually putting it on there. Don't feel like you have to have an MT4 indicator here and click and it makes a pretty little annotation in a box and it labels it, London Open and kill zones and all that business. Let your charts be manually populated with your commentary. When you do that, it will be more meaningful to you. It's more work, but who cares? You're not doing 28 pairs, okay? Do 1 or 2 pairs, follow that, and then really build your analysis, commentary, and annotations in a rich format that you grow accustomed to. And you're going to love it. Be able to go back and look at your notes and say, oh, yeah, this is what I'm looking for here. Because I remember that same setup, it happened this many times in this many instances. And you will be building a greater appreciation for the repeating natures of these characteristics that you're learning here. But anyway, same thing here. We have imbalance can come up right into that again. Midpoint, okay, or an equilibrium of this range and rebalance. Then the price expands lower. Creates a fair value gap here. Bumps up into that again. Bearish order block. Midpoint of the tail of that candle. Look at that. Study that. Sensitivity down. Fair value gap. Rebalance. Consolidates. Breaks down. Institutional entry drill here. Attack the liquidity resting here down into an old level that we had on our charts anyway. So there's lots of things to look at here on a 5-minute and 1-minute chart that's really seen clearly on this in the 15-minute chart. But when you break down a lower time frame, it gives you the same situations that we look for on any other time frame. It's the same characteristics on all charts, but the framework is it starts here and it can drag all the way down to a level like this. And this level, again, go out to the higher time frames and you'll see what those levels are. They've been in our chart. I didn't just draw that there, okay? So between this point here, which would be a terminus, it could go lower, but this could be a terminus. Your setup is framed on the basis of this mean threshold on the daily chart or the bearish order block, daily chart basis. And then anytime it rallies, it's going back up into a premium array in the form of a rebalance of a fair value gap, rating a short-term high for buy-side liquidity, or optimal trade entry, or it's trading up into a bearish breaker. So it's you're looking for specific things that they could be multiple things, but when they form in the chart, you'll see it and then you'll engage. It won't be, well, which is it, a breaker or is it a fair value gap? Which one am I looking for? Whatever one the chart forms. See, that's the thing that you don't get without the experience, because it's not forming all of them. Okay, you all have the idea once you get to, I think it's month 5, where I go through the PDRA matrix and the hierarchy of all of the individual specific things that I'm looking for in price and where they are in formation in relative terms to the others. And I do that for both premium and discount arrays. As a new student here, if you haven't gotten to month 5, everything I just said completely went over your head. You're going to want to type an email to me and say, what are you talking about? What is a PD array? What is a PD array matrix? They are all taught to you in later months. Okay, so just know that all of you are hearing the same commentary. And everyone has the same video when I do these weekly, midweek, and weekend video. So I talk about things in the most general term, so that way all of you can get what you need to get from my commentary, but I'm also not teaching content that you haven't reached yet. So these are moments where you're going to write down your notes. What is he talking about? What's a PD array matrix? What's the hierarchy in the PD array matrix, and what makes a PD array a premium array or a discount array? All that's taught to you in month 5. So anyway, when you can see the market where we have a high likelihood of sensitivity here, and again, go back and watch the videos, you'll hear me say, okay, we're going to see if it, because it could stop here and it could have topped the market right there, could have capped it right there, and it did, and it went lower. Now, I'm not trying to say, oh, look how smart I am. I'm saying that's how you learn, because you have to go through the process of saying, okay, this is where a move can begin. So if it starts and shows itself willing to move in that direction, you stay with that narrative until you get to the next logical discount array, which would be the level like we've outlined here on the daily chart. And again, just go back and record back in the recording here, and where we're looking at the daily chart, and you'll see what this level is. Okay, go back in the previous recordings and you'll see what that level is. Okay, but between that point here and here, that's the basis for your entire one shot, one kill, or the basis for your day trades or your scalps. And all through here, whenever it rallies, you're not being suckered in thinking it's going higher. You're looking for the narrative to unfold to get down to a discount array. Now it could stop here and go lower, go higher and never go any lower. That's where we become less likely to continue when we hit a discount array. We want to see, okay, how much of a retracement, if at all, do we encounter? And then when you learn algorithmic principles that even the charter members haven't yet learned, they will give you greater insight too, which I haven't touched on. So there's no student here that says or can say, okay, I figured it all out and therefore I know what I'm doing entirely. Not in the scope of what I'm teaching, because I have a laundry list of things still we have to cover. But there's still, with all that being said and yet to learn, even month 1 folks are really presented with a great deal of opportunity, gleaning greater insights by doing what I just outlined here. That's the work part of it. Okay, that's the thing that you got to fall in love with doing. If you don't want to do that, you are lazy. And be offended by that. I don't care. You will fail. Not here, but everywhere in trading. You have to be a nut job about being in the charts, annotating things, because unless you do that, just watching my videos, you're not going to learn it. You're not. It's like watching the Food Network on TV. You can watch these people make all these dishes, and it looks beautiful. And I get, like now, I'm salivating thinking about it. I'm hungry. So, but you can watch these people all day long. But go in your kitchen and try to do it. It's not gonna work. You can watch that same recipe to be done dozens of times. It doesn't mean that you're gonna go in your kitchen and make that souffle the same way. Okay, it ain't gonna come out like that. Something's gonna go wrong because you did not go in there and practice with it. Practice. If you're dating someone and you're gonna make dinner and you watch this person that you watched for years on the Food Network, okay, Emeril Lagasse, he bam, he puts his seasonings in there. Okay, I love him. I think he's a great, personality. I think he's a great cook. Not every one of his dishes I'm a fan of, but I've seen some things, and I'm like, wow, I'd like to do that. If I was a dating man, so I wasn't married, I wasn't a family guy, do I want to look at this video or a DVR of his recipe that I really like and I have an affinity for? Do I want to say, okay, my girlfriend is going to come over? Okay, and my wife is, if she hears this video, no, mama, I don't have a girlfriend. Again, this is hypothetical. But if we, gotta be careful in this day and age, would I want to take the chance of trying to do that recipe, hours before she's coming over, and have the faith in knowing that I'm going to make that recipe come out like I watched Emeril Lagasse do on the Food Network? Heck no, I'm not going to do that. Nobody in their right mind would, but people do that with this insight here. They come into the mentorship, they watch a video, and they're like, Michael, I've watched these videos, and, I just don't get it. Okay, how much of the back testing have you done? Show me some of your notes, and what have you done in the past week? Well, I really don't have time to do that. Well, why are you surprised that you don't get it? You got to practice. You got to go in there and create your own charts, annotate them, find the things that I'm teaching you every single month. This is what you're supposed to be doing with these videos. I'm pointing out where it's likely to go. So it gives you a context to work within and practice. Even if you can't watch it real time, it gives you that context to go back in and you can see how much opportunity is available? How many times am I right in my analysis in terms of directional probability? It's very high. There's still times when I'm not dialed in, okay, and this is one of them, but it still doesn't negate the responsibility on your part to go into the charts and do these things every single day, not just on Wednesday and on the weekend, but every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. Your charts should be annotated, and you should be printing out as many charts as you want. How many charts do I print out, Michael? How bad do you want to learn this? Because I was doing everything when I had, coming up and had Metastock as my trading platform, or not trading platform, but my analysis software back in the 90s. I printed out everything. I mean, I had all kinds of charts. I mean, I wasted so much paper printing, but I did not waste my time doing it because it put me where I am now. I have so many things that I learned not to do because I did this. And I'm telling you, everybody has to be doing this part. If you are not doing it, and you haven't been doing it, and you've been here for a couple months, you are cheating yourself of the revelations that come by doing it, because my videos on their own are not going to teach you how to do this. They're going to give you conceptual ideas, a comprehensive overview, and a very specific topical study here and there. But by itself, it does not give you the translated experience that you're expecting. It won't happen. You earn that by going into your own charts and annotating. Well, then I'm self-teaching myself. Well, no, not really. I'm putting you in an arena where you have tools. Okay? If we were in art school and I was an art teacher and I was teaching you painting, I'm not giving you clay. We're not doing pottery. So I may give you an array of paint brushes, and I may say, okay, try to paint a specific portion of this landscape using this type of brush and see what you can do, knowing that that's not the best tool for it. But then I say, okay, now you've done it, regardless of what the outcome was, you have an experience. But then I go and I say, okay, now try this brush using this particular technique, which is comparable to what you do in this mentorship. Because later on, you'll get another tool and a concept that will be more useful and more meaningful to you when you're looking at the same daily, hourly, 15-minute time frames. Okay, it'll be much more impactful, and you'll say, oh, I see this now. Whereas before, you're trying to go in here and add all of your Elliott wave stuff, your harmonic stuff, because you haven't put it down. You're trying to put order blocks in when they're not really an order block there. You're looking at breakers when it's not even a breaker. You're trying to push too hard. I have folks in here that go back to month one content, and it's like watching it new all over again because they can appreciate lessons that were there all along. Same thing with charter members. They're going back into not month one, but model one, and they're like, wow, I'm seeing things that I didn't know. The reason why that's happening is not because you're a daft person or you are slow to learning. It's because you're getting greater experience because you're spending time with me every single week. And now your mind is being shaped and focusing on the things that are more important versus what you come into the mentorship. Think about all you that are charter members now. Everything that you thought you were going to have to learn, or all the things that you were going to have to worry with all the time, think about all the time that you wasted worrying about all those things, and you didn't have to touch any of that stuff. That's what's going on right with you. If you're month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until you get to 5, or the 5th month in the mentorship, you're going to have all these things that you're going to be trying to figure out. Like, I need to know when, when's an order block? Well, how do I know when it's going to be a turtle soup? Why do I know, it's going to go higher? And then all these things, you're trying to push all that. I got to get answers to this instead of just digesting the things that I've laid out in the order that I've laid it out, because it answers those questions that you have along the way. I promise you, 90% of the things that you have in your mind that comes up as a question gets answered in the content. Or if you go back through the content, your answers are found there. Now, it sounds like pushing everything that you would come to me in the form of a question under the rug or kicking the can down the road. But I've already warned you, this is a lot of work. And most of the time, the answers are already in the content. And charter members are finding that when they go back to Model 1. They're like, wow, this is like simple. Like, I was trying to do this and that and forcing it, and I felt silly, like I wasn't learning it. And then now, because they're doing it again, they're questioning whether or not they're on the right path. And you are. That's the growth. That's a growth period or growth spurt. Okay. It feels painful, like a growing pain does when you're a child. Okay. Your bones grow real quick. Sometimes I had very, very bad growing pains in my legs and my feet as a child. It would bring me to tears. But that's a necessity and part of life. When you go through growth spurts, it can be painful. It can be uncertain. It can present a great deal of panic and anxiety. Like, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, because you're learning. That's exciting. So don't label it. And this is why I tell you in your journals, never give your journal toxic annotations. Don't say, I was so stupid, I did this and that, or I feel foolish because I didn't do what I should have done. What you're doing is you're programming yourself mentally, subconsciously. You're teaching to yourself that you are a failure and you deserve to be criticized negatively all the time. Now, who in that condition can grow organically like that? Nobody can. You can't. You cannot be toxic and critical to yourself when you are keeping a journal. You want to keep, and it sounds like, well, you're just, you're sweet talking and sugarcoating and everything. No, you're focusing on the lessons and the things that you've learned, and you can still annotate something that you should have done, but without giving it a negative context. So what I mean by that, if you look at, like, for instance, if you look at these examples here we've talked about in here, you can look at it and say, okay, I can see it in hindsight, it's perfect. And the narrow-minded, myopic noob that will come in here, and there's a lot of you that just came in. We had a huge wave just come in. Some of you are going to quit this month. You won't go to month 2 because you're going to say, he's not really giving me signals. He's not really saying anything of importance. I'm not really convinced by this, and I want the work done for me. And you're not going to do the work that's required, and you're going to be lazy. And guess what? There's nothing really wrong with being lazy. If you don't want to be lazy, but don't expect to be here and lazy and learn, because it won't happen. You're just wasting your time. You're wasting your money. I'm not going to change the curriculum. I'm not going to fast track you into other portions of the content faster than it's supposed to be, 1 month at a time. I'm not going to answer questions that's going to be answered in future months' content. So if you are that mentality, quit. And I mean that. But you're going to have to look at yourself and say, okay, everyone that makes it here, they do the same things. That means they go into their charts. They use the information they learn for that particular month of content. So if you're in month 2, you look at month 2 and month 1 content. What are the concepts that were taught there? And you go into your charts looking to support how price moved with those ideas. When you get to month 3, you do the same thing. But the same things that repeat every single month from the beginning when you first started the mentorship is you always break down your charts to as many time frames as you want that makes you feel like you're getting more information. It's okay to be a sponge. Take in as much as you can, because the delivery of the content and how I mapped out where you should be in your progress throughout the mentorship, it's laid out in a way where everything will fall into place at the right time. Not your timing, not when you want it, but when it's necessary and needed. See, the lessons that you think you need to learn right now, they're not imperative to learn right now. There's other lessons that you have to learn that are incremental and progressive over time, leading to the understanding that you're aiming for, but you have to go through it the way I deliver it. Because you don't know what lessons you're about to learn in the next month's content. You don't know what I'm going to talk about. And you don't know what other lessons are required to support understanding that very particular concept from month number 2 or month number 1. That's why the people that have gone through later months, or even at charter level now, when they go back into the old content, they're like, did you change this video? Because I don't remember seeing that. I don't change any video. All the content is dense. It's very, very thick with insight. And you're not going to key up on the things I'm saying when I'm saying them in these individual lessons. And you won't draw the importance of them the first time or a few times that you watch them. Because I'm giving you more clarity, more insight, more experience as you spend time with me. And then when you go back, you're like, oh yeah, that. and you have that epiphany, that moment of astonishment where you have a growth spurt. And it's very, very encouraging, not only to you, but to me as a mentor, because that's progress. And you only get that through time doing it. The folks that say, I've been doing this for 6 years, I've been doing this for 5 years, can't get it, blah, 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 blah. There's a handful of you in here that are like that. And I'm telling you, I can't fix that for you. You have to do what I tell you to do in the practicing, the processes, and stop imposing your will. And many times these same individuals, and I may feel like I'm beating up on you, but it's the woodshed moment you need. These same individuals that struggle, they're always trying to go against what I'm saying is going to happen in the commentary. And they're like arguing. I'm like, did you even watch the video? I'm telling you what it's likely to do, what direction, and you're trying to go the other way. Well, I don't like to listen to you. Okay, well, that's why you don't know how to do it, because you don't like to listen. There's your problem. There's your root cause. So there's a lot of psychological battles that's going to happen with you being here, okay? And I'm not the ICT that you see on Twitter. Like, I'm over there being, I'm venting. I'm getting the things that I don't want in here out over there. And here, I'm talking to you like if we were in the same room together. I'm talking to you like I've known you for 25 years and that I care about you. I want you to succeed. This is structured in a way where my real desire is for you to learn this and do very well. It's not about milking people for money, because I could literally have changed this to you pay every single month or you're not here. That's not something I need. Okay. I don't ever have to make another trade in my life. That's how much money I've made from this mentorship. Okay. I don't need to do it for money, but I know that the folks that have been here that are charter members, they have seen now 2 years of lessons that are well beyond what they expected and thought they were going to see when they finished the first core content. And they thought, okay, well, that was great, but they've learned so much more. And I'm telling you, there's so much more still. But it's all complementary to the things you've already learned. Where these little things fit together, all these little ideas and how they come together to an approach. But you cannot get there even if you just watch my videos. Like I could literally take all the stuff that I have in this mentorship and put it on YouTube. And everyone's going to have varying results. Why? It's the same content. Why is there a wide disparity between the results of the masses? It's the person watching the video. Are they really subscribing to the views? Or are they trying to cherry pick? Are they in it with the intent to not really learn it, but just to understand enough so they can go out and repackage it like everybody on Instagram is trying to do now and present it as a new institutional trading concept? And it's only theirs, and it's really just me. Everyone has their preconceived ideas about what it is that you're supposed to do with this information. Some of you have no intentions of ever trading it. So the folks that want to know what I'm doing and know how I'm doing it, that comes by practicing and doing the very things that I'm telling you what to do. I'm telling you the exercises. I'm telling you the process of doing it every single day. You condition your idea about what the price is going to do based on seeing it happen so many other times previously. How much time? How much data do you need to do that? How many months is it? How many markets? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think there is a particular mold that is sufficient to say, okay, this is the umbrella that all of you will be under, and then this is the time frame you'll know it. That's unrealistic. No teacher, no mentor can ever say, you're going to learn this and know it by this. And come on, it's ridiculous. So you have to be flexible and you have to give yourself time. And some of you are going to have to be painfully drug across more time than you're willing. And because you're going to do things and you're not going to know that you're doing them. Like the first 6 years of my trading, I didn't realize I was self-sabotaging. I didn't realize I was doing all those things that were impeding my development because I didn't have someone telling me you're wasting a lot of time doing that. So the things I tell you to avoid doing here, don't do them. The things I tell you to do them a lot. and that's going to shorten your learning curve. And that's all I got. I can't do anything else. Like I said before, I wish there was a way for me to download what I know and put it into everybody, but obviously that can't happen. But nonetheless, let's move over to GBP. All right, British pound versus the US dollar is our daily chart. All right, so I just said last time we talked, I didn't see cable as being decidedly bearish. We did get a little bit of a drop in here from this area here, but I still feel confident that they're going to pull something out, okay, and run it up into here. I just think that this is not likely to go lower. I might be wrong, okay, but if we get bearishness on the dollar in the next week, this currency is going to really run. And if it runs through here, don't be surprised if it blows out these equal highs. And what it does from that point on, I don't know. But if we have a bearish dollar, cable's going to have some real significant upside. And why, I don't know, because it really doesn't have any reason to do so except for break up the sentiment right now because everyone's bearish cable. And it would be very easy for them to come back up here, run all this out. If it runs these highs and starts to break lower, wow, it could be exceedingly bearish longer term on cable. But right now, I just think this is just, to me, it looks fake, like it wants to go higher. And you can see the comparison between this versus the daily chart of the euro. I was right in my understanding that euro would not be strong and that cable would be stronger between the two. And it would lead to a weaker euro pound, which we'll talk about after we do our discussion here on cable. But I think that this pair still has a willingness to want to go higher. There is no rebalance necessary here because we already done it. And then we have this area here, this particular range. We have this area here, which will change to that. We'll get rid of this. And that. And we don't need this. It's essentially already touched that. So any drop down would be a removal of the imbalance in here on the consequent encroachment up to this low here. I don't think it needs to go any lower than that. In fact, I don't think it needs to go there at all. If you take this range here of this SIBI, extend out in time, we've already touched it here. And that to me is enough because this is balanced. And I want to see a weaker dollar for what I'm about to say. It should open up and just start running higher, going right into next week. That's the best scenario. Anything continued lower, then we're just going to most likely go into this range here, and then it becomes a 50-50 where does it completely close this in, or does it come down to consequent encroachment? Either way, this low would be suspect in terms of not offering any support. It would look to go lower than that. So point blank, what am I saying? I still think that cable has the relative strength. I think that relative strength resides in cables. Therefore, if the dollar's weaker, this currency is going to lead on the upside. Okay, that's what I'm saying between euro and cable. Moving on into the hourly chart. You can see we have a little bit of fair value gap in here. Again, does it need to go down there? I don't know. I think that, like I said, a weaker dollar rate from Jump Street on Sunday's opening would set the tone for this to go higher. And we have a lot of clean highs up in here. Even though we rebalanced essentially in this area multiple times, lots of liquidity resting above that. And then the points I mentioned on its daily chart need to be monitored as upside objectives. I love this in here. I like how it really went down, broke up the trend line idea, and then sent it higher. This is the only real interest I have if we have any kind of deeper retracement. Price should find some support in here if the dollar is weak or becomes weaker into next week. Monitor this area here and the high here on this candle 120.68. So just 120.70, 120.65 thereabouts. That should offer institutional support, and it would also clear up relative equal lows in here. So sell side liquidity would be vanquished in this area with a rebalance of this fair value gap and keeping this intact, this low here. Okay, so this has been pretty much rebalanced and efficient on the way on its upside, but this right here got a little bit of ahead of itself, didn't really come back down into this candles high here. So this is a little bit exposed for rebalance, and that would be my only expectation for any lower prices on cable if dollar is weak. 15-minute time frame. Let's take this out a little bit. We could spike up into this area here, clear up some equal highs, rebalance this fair value gap there, and that could be an area where we can see another level of selling if it is in fact bearish with a stronger dollar. But I just don't think I don't want to fade this currency in the form of what it's showing in terms of its price action. I don't trust it. I think it wants to do something violent on the upside, and if you try to short it, you know, I would be terribly upset if someone went in here and traded this and tried to fade it against what I'm saying here, and it violently trades through. We are in black swan territory still, folks, and I just can't say it enough. I sound like a broken record, but it is what it is. I think that this current environment has the likelihood of seeing explosive, untradeable jumps in liquidity. And if you're offside, that means you're on the wrong side of that move. Short when it goes higher, or long when it goes lower. It could move several hundred pips in one tick or one opening. That's the environment we're in right now. And that's what I need you to understand. New traders can't grasp that. It doesn't make any sense to them. Markets don't trade that way. It doesn't happen that way. Well, look at what happened when the Swiss franc was pegged to the euro, and they removed the peg. That killed brokerage firms. Okay, we are in that kind of condition. Like, it is really, really, very, extremely. I'm trying to look for every adjective I can think of. Dangerous right now, and you need to know that. You absolutely need to know that. If you don't believe it and you get hurt, don't even tell me. I don't want to know about it. Okay, I don't want to know, because I'm telling you now to avoid it. All right, so let's look at euro pound. Euro pound. There's some weakness, as I was indicating on Twitter. I said look to this pair and you'll see what's going on, and I basically mentioned it in the last time we talked. Look at these lows here. Really, really too clean. We have an order block that I said that we want to reach down into, and we have a little bit of an imbalance here. Bullish order block starts here. So if we have this outlined, right, and we have a breaker, give you some discount arrays to look at and study going forward. Let's see, that is 85.82. What's the high on that one? 92. So that's the one you want. Highest up close candle is your breaker. Why didn't you use this one, Michael? This one is a down close candle. We're focusing on the up close candle. That's your breaker. That actually does a real nice job of getting close to the top end of this fair value gap as well. So these are particularly interesting levels to me. We have a sell side liquidity pool resting below this low here in the 82.20 level, we'll call it. So 82. So what did this say? The low is 86.20. Yeah, 86.20. And my real attention is here. Okay, this is a sell side liquidity pool. I see, if we are stronger on dollar, I see this being ran out on euro pound. Okay, and let me explain to you why. If you got to a weekly chart, a weekly chart, I haven't seen that in so long. We had high here, high here, high here. So we had triple highs. Ran through that. We talked about this being bullish anyway. Okay, and then you go back and look at some of the videos. Even though I don't actively follow it, talk about it, all that business, we did talk about euro pound looking to go higher. This liquidity pool resting above all this was rated and then one more time for good measure, and now we're giving up the ghost. We completely came back down into the high here, rebalanced on the weekly chart there, but look at the sell side liquidity pool resting below these equal lows, and then look over here. Look at that. So when I see that, my eye goes right to this breaker, okay? Low, high, lower low. There is your breaker, and it overlaps with a fair value gap right in here. Okay, so I see 81.20 as a potential long-term, intermediate-term play where we could see this. If we have a stronger dollar now, it's very important. If we have a stronger dollar, this is what we'll likely see on euro pound, and that will stay a factor for our analysis between relative strength analysis, euro to cable. So in other words, euro with this context is more likely to be weaker than that of cable. Now, what do we do with that information? What algorithmic ideas do we apply to that? Whenever dollar is intraday or short-term bullish, euro is going to be the better sell versus selling short cable, British pound versus dollar. If the dollar index is weaker, cable is the better buy than buying euro dollar. You see what I just did there? I gave you a formula on how to go forward using what I just gave you, okay? Now, that is algorithmic theory. That's what you do with the information that these charts are indicating to me, what we do with this information going forward. It does not mean if we are short or bearish on euro pound that every single day euro is going to go down and cable is going to go up, or cable is going to sit sideways where euro dollar is going down. It does not mean that euro dollar is going to sit sideways and held in consolidation and cable be allowed to rally, which would still be a mechanism used to make this pair go down. Okay? The euro pound goes down when euro is held in consolidation and cable goes up, or euro drops and pound is held in consolidation. Those are your two factors. Now, because this is a long-term idea and premise that's in the making and it's likely to occur, not high-end probability, it's likely to occur, and I believe it will likely do it, but I don't have a time horizon to say it's going to do it by then. I don't have that. What I just gave you is you want to now measure on a day-by-day basis what the Dixie is, or dollar chart, is doing on its daily chart. In other words, is the next candle likely to be bullish or bearish on the daily chart of the dollar? And then, if it's very clear for the very next day if the dollar is going to go higher or lower, then you have a mechanism to apply to your analysis with euro and cable. If the dollar is likely to go higher the very next day on your daily chart, then you want to be focusing on not shorting cable, but shorting euro, because it's likely to unfold with this premise in mind with euro pound. You follow what I said? If not, rewind it, listen to it again. All right, so that's all I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to break any more lower time frames with this one. Crude oil. All right, so here's crude oil. We went down below $20 a barrel. We had a low on the May contract for crude oil at 1927. All of this is, I'm going to attack Iran. Trump put his war mask on and said he was going to annihilate, seriously respond to any sneak attack from Iran. Now, I'm not saying there is or isn't. I don't know if there's going to be an attack, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, which I said was going to be a really short video. Remember that? Every time I say it's going to be a short video, you might as well just stop the video, go pack a lunch, because we're going to be here for a while. So we have this gap in here, all right? We have the gap, and let's take a look at that. If we look at the gap itself, and we'll use the low down to the high here of the very next opening candle. So you have the 50% level there. That's 38.24. I'm going to be mindful of that. All right, so that's consequent encroachment of an actual real gap. That actually exists in price. There's no candle, there's no wicks, there's no tails. That's actually the gap. Now, price could come right up into that, and that could be it. And we could just run this layer, well, buy some liquidity rather, out, and then some other news comes out and it goes lower or stays in the range. Anything above this, we go back to the close of this candle here, and if we're in wartime scenario, you can forget about this high because it'll just blow right on through that. Because right now everybody's bearish. There's so many fundamental reasons for it to go lower and stay low, because no one's driving anywhere, no one's really consuming oil, and talking about cutting it by 10,000 barrels a day. While that sounds great, it still isn't doing anything in the grand scheme of things because we're not consuming as much. Everyone's in their houses. Okay, so and weather's getting nicer. Anyone that's using petroleum to heat their home, it's not in great demand either right now. So it's just they need war. Okay, war will make this market go up even when the fundamentals suggest otherwise, and that's how you know it's a likely scenario. It's likely that we're going to war. It's likely that that's going to happen. So just be mindful from a technical level. This is where we're watching near term. If we remain bullish and if we see any storyline that supports this narrative, keep your eye on this level here. Anything above that rebalances to this candle's close, which is at $46 a barrel. And then anything above that, forget it. They're going to take this thing back up into the 60s and 70s and try to keep it from going below $50 a barrel again. This is not a price level that any country really wants that's in the oil industry complex. So just be mindful. We're in perilous times when it comes to the volatility for this particular market. And I think I got one more. Didn't I have one more I was going to say? S&P. Yeah, ESM 2020. See that? You almost made it through with me. All right, so here is the June contract for the E-mini S&P. Now this is the actual chart that you would be trading if you were trading the S&P, and this is the active month with the most actively traded open interest. We have this low here. We have relative equal lows in here. To me, I think we're going lower. I mentioned how this is probably going to stay intact and they wouldn't make a run for that. So far, we've seen that unfold. I'm convinced that we have not seen the low on stocks. Okay, unless they come out with the vaccine is here, everyone that takes it gets it, there's no side effects, that type of thing. These lows are going to get taken out. At what time, I don't know. But I'm not bullish on the equity market. There's no reason to be in it. No real markets or companies right now are making money. They're not. Even with the stimulus, okay, that's not making money. That's just giving them loans. Okay, that's giving them working capital. But nothing has underlyingly changed, okay, or been improved. And that stimulus has yet to be received too. So there's so many things that could happen to derail this. If we have, God forbid, say we have a massive attack against our country right now because we're vulnerable. We're viewed as vulnerable. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago. The perception is look how ill-prepared the United States is. Well, it's not just us. Every country is ill-prepared for a biological attack like this. Okay, and if our enemies, rather, wanted to do anything against us as a country, now's the time to do it. And God forbid that it happens, okay? But to me, as a critical thinker, and yes, sometimes wearing a tinfoil hat, I just feel that we are Mystery Babylon. And we're about to watch the hammer of the earth be put down. And that might be troublesome to hear that. It might be alarming. It may be unsettling. It may be wrong. I may be wrong. Don't misunderstand me. Like I said, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong for a lot of reasons. But for other reasons, I want to be right because of spiritual things. And that might be nuts to some of you. But I have to say what I have to say. Otherwise, I feel convictions about not doing it. And that's the reason why I say it. So, and you can also see why I put this in video versus typing it out, because there's no real way for me to articulate clearly over the charts is better. You can see how all these things are on my mind. And I'd have to create charts in text form. It wouldn't work. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that thread. It might be something else. I might share videos that I found interesting from outside sources there. That's probably what I'll end up doing. But the equities market, I'm not bullish on at all. I think that if we get attacked, which, again, if you just look at the underlying movement that our military is doing with their hardware, look, you don't need tanks to manage civil unrest. You're not going to be blowing people away with a tank. I don't care how big the mob is. I don't care if they're burning buildings. The United States military will not be turning tanks on their civilians. So the question is, why the hell are all these tanks being positioned along the West Coast, the East Coast, and all the southern border states? Why is that happening? That's why I believe either they have intel that they believe we're going to have something happen here, or something's going to be allowed to occur. And I'll let you run with that, because I don't want to say, what I believe in that regard, because it's uncomfortable for me to even think about it. But I believe that they had a great part in this country with 9/11. And you can be mad about that. You can be offended by that. You're not going to change my opinion of it. And I'm just saying what I believe, okay? I'm not here to be debated with. I don't care what your opinion is. Don't send me emails about what you think. I don't care, okay? I'm telling you, you're paying for my opinion. And I'm telling you the things that I'm looking at that form these opinions. And you don't have to agree with that. But you paid for it, so I'm giving it to you. And, sometimes medicine don't taste good. And sometimes it's going to be offensive. And sometimes it's going to be completely divergent to your belief, your faith, your religion, your lack of a religion. I'm not religious, but my opinions are mine. And if you're here, you're going to hear them, whether you want to hear them or not. So it is what it is. Like I said, I might be wrong. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not a prophet. I don't know the future. But I know enough to look at the landscape of things, and this all leads to war. And except for Pearl Harbor, we've not really had any kind of war on our turf. We're always doing these proxy wars. And I mentioned this last year on Twitter. I mentioned it in commentaries, and I don't know exactly where I said it in here, but it's on recording. They need something. The elites need something more terrifying than planes hitting a building. And they have it with this. Good gracious, they have it with this. I mean, you don't see it. It's a virus. It's going to kill you. You can have it and give it to everybody else and not know it. Don't wear a mask. It doesn't help. Now, wear a mask. And if you can, make one out of cloth, even though just about everything can go through your shirt. Come on. They have done the same thing that I joked about on Twitter last year. I mentioned how, look, they're going to do something worse than planes in hitting buildings. And remember the terror threat levels, the scale system we had in the U.S. Every day in the lower left-hand corner or the upper right-hand corner, depending upon what channel you were watching, they had the terror threat level indicator. And it was orange. Well, there's no reason for you to believe why it's been raised from a level yellow to orange, but now it's a heightened threat. Today, the terror threat level is now raised from yellow to orange. So be vigilant. Be on the lookout. Well, good gracious, no wonder the pharmaceutical industry went through the roof in terms of profiting off of anxiety medications. I actually had the highest form of anxiety during that period because I was watching all that stuff every day. I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, we're all going to die. Like, I was nuts then. Some of you think that's what I am right now. I'm not. I'm cool as a cucumber. I'm completely level-headed. I'm 100% confident that I genuinely don't have anything really to worry about. Now, I'm not in a bubble where I think I'm completely impervious to anything happening. And things can happen. I could, unfortunately, I pray to God in Jesus' name that I don't get sick, but that could happen to me. But if I do and I die, I know where I'm going. I'm at peace with everything right now. I'm not huddled up in my house freaking out. I'm not panicking. I'm not trying to incite fear. None of you should be fearful. None of you. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hardships, but what do you have to, what's your alternative? You're here. You got to go through it. And we can only try to mitigate as much as we can and prepare ourselves for the really bad times ahead. If you sugarcoat it and pretend that there's nothing going on, when it really hits the fan, you're going to really be shell shocked. So when I talk about on Twitter, to get a go bag together with some things that you can change clothes in, 2 sets of clothes, some toiletries. So if you have to go somewhere outside of your house, something happens, civil unrest comes, and your home gets caught on fire, or just anything. The government comes in and says, look, you have to move out of this area and go somewhere else. What are you going to be given a time to go pack up some things? They're not going to tell you can go in and get some things together. We're in a different kind of situation now. I mean, think about it. If you were told all this stuff was happening last September, you would have been like, there's no way that's going to happen. Look around. It's happening. And it's not done. So when I suggest things, or if I talk about things, my intention is not to scare you. It's not to create or incite fear and panic. It's for you to do what you can to prepare. And some of you probably can't do some of the things I talk about. Some of you probably don't have the funds to go out and buy 6 months worth of food. And now we've pretty much missed that opportunity because they have rationed everything. You can only buy 1 or 2 and that's it. Some of you didn't want to believe it. And now you're quiet and you're regretting having not listened to me. Others have emailed me saying they're thankful that they listened to me. They didn't quite understand what was going on, but because I said it, they listened. And an outward view of that, a witness of listening to something like that, they'd say, see, it's a cult. But the only thing I've been telling you is how to avoid suffering. I do it with the trading too. Don't trade with live funds while you're here learning. Everything I'm doing for all of you is with the intent of well-being, for your edification, for your preservation, for your continuous development as a functioning, profitable human being. And the things that I have learned in my life, I'm trying to share with you. The things that I do to prepare for my own family, I have shared with you. Listen, I am not unstable. I'm not a panic-inducing personality, or at least that's not my intention. And if someone is not familiar with me and you've just recently become aware of who I am and you've been here for a very short time, I might look like a nut job. I might look like an Alex Jones. I'm not like that. Okay, I am completely balanced. I'm 100% lucid is what I'm referring to when I talk about these things. I know that I'm going to be met with people that are going to be like, okay, I need to unplug this guy's nuts. But listen, look around. Okay. It's obvious now, but we talked about it. I warned you. And I'm telling you, if you're in the United States, you need to get it in your head and prepare for some really ugly stuff. And probably going to be very scary. That's why I own firearms. I just recently got 3,000 more bullets came to me. I ordered it from bulkammo.com. Some of you in here are against guns. Well, it's your business. That's your belief. But I'm into guns. And yes, there might be scenarios that you can tell me if we were having a conversation. What are you going to do if something? Well, then I'll probably die. Okay. But as far as knowing that I can preserve my safety in my own homes and my family, and I have sons that if I need to put a firearm in their hand to help preserve our safety in our homes, I'm able to do so. And I'm not short on ammo. So it just gives me one more tool, one more resource. And I don't care what anybody's opinion about guns are, okay? I don't care. My father was shot. He has a bullet in his chest still to this day. because of a firearm. But he got that because he was trying to escape from prison. Bottom line is, there's going to be all kinds of stories that you can give me why guns are supporting guns, or not having a support of guns, how it's killing people, how it's this and that. Look, there are people in this world, especially in the United States, that are not going to turn their guns in. So give me a break with your gun stuff, okay? If everybody that owns a gun says, let's turn all of our guns in, the people that want to use a gun for nefarious reasons, they're not turning theirs in. So wake up. I know that's probably a pretty bitter pill for some of you liberal folks in here, but like I said, I'm not sugarcoating anything, and you're not convincing me otherwise. So if you don't want to have a gun, then don't have a gun. But I have lots of them, and I have lots of ammunition, and I feel better for having them. And I pray that I never, ever, 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 ever have to put one in my son's hands, or I have to use them. But I have them should I need them. Inequities, I think that we're probably going to see the next wave of selling is going to be really bad. There's already been reports, and you got to look for it yourself. This past week, people were jumping off of buildings in New York. They're killing themselves. They just can't handle it. They have the panic of not making any money. They have the panic of their retirement being decimated. They have the uncertainty of, when is this ever going to end? I don't want to get sick and die. I can't take care of myself anymore. What's the point of living? That's where we're at. And folks that get to that point, feeling that they always want to end themselves, you think they have any reservation with wanting to hurt you, to take whatever you have? The people that have a kind heart, they elect to just check out themselves, jump off the building and hurt only themselves. The majority of people in the United States don't have that mentality. I'm not saying it's a good mentality, but I'm just saying that's the area where we're entering now. These individuals that are out there that are in lack, they may have guns. They may have knives. They may have things that's going to be used against people with home invasions, stealing your cars. Don't have anything in your car that's worth anything, okay? Double check to make sure that your possessions are secured. Don't assume someone coming to your door is someone that's safe, even if they're wearing utility attire. People are kicking in doors right now and are dressed up like the gas company. And when you come to the door and you open the door up, they bust the door in and they're home invading. That's what's going on right now. Some of you don't want to hear that. It's unsettling. It's uncomfortable. It has nothing to do with an open, high, low, and closed candle. But it has everything to do with you being preserved. Now, I'm of the opinion that that's not just going to happen in the United States and grow from where we're seeing it now. It's going to get worse. But I'm certain that other countries are seeing it or will see it. And you need to change your thought process. We are not in 2019 anymore. The things that you felt and you accepted as the normal, I'm probably not going to have a home invasion today. That's the furthest things from your mind right now. But it needn't be. It needs to be the forefront because people are freaking out. Now, I'm not arguing the validity of whether or not they should be as freaked out as they are. But you need to be changing your mannerisms every day. Is your doors really locked? Like you just went outside to do something. Maybe you took the trash out. Maybe you've done something with the garage door open. Okay? And in past times, you probably think, well, the weather's getting nice. Let the breeze blow in. Don't do that. Take an extra level of precaution now, especially if you have a spouse, children, and explain to them the situation that we're in right now. Take a different direction in terms of what normalcy was is not anymore. Okay? And notice that I'm not saying live in fear. Stay sheltered up in your house and don't open a door. Don't go to, don't be aware of what's potentially a hazard now. Okay? In my opinion, if someone comes to my door, I'm not answering it. I'm not going to answer it, because if it really is a utility worker, they'll contact me by phone and say, hey, look, we have a representative at your door. We need to speak to you, blah, blah, blah. If they're not doing that, I don't need to answer the door. As simple as that. If you have an alarm system and you don't usually use it, start using it. Have a blackout kit together. Everybody's right now going out buying what they can in food, but if you lose power in your house, do you have candles to illuminate your dwelling place? You can get tea lights, very, very inexpensive right now, and they can last for a couple hours. Larger candles, you can get from like a dollar store, all that stuff. I know some of you are like, man, what's this got to do with the marketplace? It has everything to do with the marketplace, because if you're not healthy or alive, because something outside of the markets that I'm talking about could potentially impact your home, your family, your well-being, it doesn't matter what these charts create next week. You have to be thinking differently now. You've missed the opportunity to put away 6 months or 3 months worth of food. That's gone. They've rationed it. The only way you'd be able to do something like that is go out and a team, I guess, and have other members of your family go to the same store with you and buy the same thing at the maximum number, and then bring it back and stash it in your house, and then go do it again at another store. That's how everyone else is doing it right now. That's how you beat that rationing. And some of you are saying, well, you're hoarding now. No, you're not hoarding. You're preserving yourself and your family. I have no reasons to think that someone that would be doing that is a bad person or ignorant for doing so. It's self-preservation, folks. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And you need to be thinking like that. I teach you how to survive in the marketplace, but it would be a disservice for me not to talk about these things and pretend like everything else in the world right now is normal, because it's not. It's not. Okay? I don't know how long this is going to go, but they have been hinting at 18 months. It's been dropped several times. I told you we weren't going to just do 2 weeks. It wasn't going to be just 30 days. It's been an ease-in process. How long is it going to be like this? I don't know. Nobody knows. But equities, I think we will eventually work its way down into the 2000 level. Does it happen on the heels of some kind of a military event? I don't know. Like I said, I'm closing this video now on the same note that I opened it up with. I don't know right now. I'll know when I know, because I'll see it in the charts and I'll feel comfortable with it, and I'll say, okay, now I think this is what's going to happen. But I'm honest with you. Right now, if you have any risk at all, any risk exposure, remove it. I've said it weeks ago. 401k, what should I do, Michael? Take the hit, take the penalty, move to cash. You can always get back in. Who cares? Who cares about that penalty? Who cares? How much have you lost in your 401k since the highs? Oh, but what happens if it reverses? What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? What do you want to lose more? You don't know how far it can go down. And what in this environment makes it bullish? Really? What's going on that makes anybody justify why the stock market should go up? I saw a Twitter follower. Yeah, it's going to make new highs. I didn't say nothing, but I was like, wow, that is really distorted optimism. This is an environment that we have never seen before. And there's a lot of large funds that are sitting on shares that they cannot get the counterparties to sell, because there's no real buying interest right now. So that's the reason why we're consolidating. They have to let things simmer down a little bit. And don't be surprised if they end up running those equal highs out and getting above 26.50. I do not look at that as, okay, we made the low. You're going to see that. All the heroes on Twitter are going to be like, yeah, everybody thought the stock market was going to go low. Look where it's at now. And then watch what happens then. They'll shut up as we're blowing through 2,000 months later. It's hard right now, folks. But this too shall pass. Endure. Try to keep yourself mentally healthy. Don't watch the news. If it's bad enough, they'll put it across your cell phone. That to me is really the important thing, because we already know what's happening. It's bad. You don't need to feed yourself continuously toxic. We're all going to get sick and die. That's all they're saying now. 70% of the American public is going to get it. Well, you know what that means? 70% of the people are going to be on a respirator. 70% of the people are going to die gasping for their breath and not get it. That's what the interpretation of that is. That's why they're doing it. They're pumping it out constantly like that. So I watched the news, but in the 90s, okay, I was young and invincible. But when 2001 happened, I didn't feel invincible. I felt frail. I felt like a shell of a man, and it broke me. Like, I was terrified. I had children to worry about for the first time in my life in a situation that I just didn't understand. And I had severe anxiety. I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't have any anxiety anymore. I don't have uncontrollable fear and panic. I don't have that. Even in all this stuff, I don't have it, because I know what I can do to mitigate, and then I accept the things that I can't. And then I control the flow of narrative. Like, if I constantly sit on the news and listen and constantly believe all this crap, I would be huddled up in a corner, scared to death and just freaking out. But I don't do that, because I understand 90% of the things that they're telling you is propaganda. It's all meant to shape your opinion. So control the amount of it. Ration that. That's the things that you should be rationing. Read uplifting things. Spend time with your family. Like I mentioned before, I'm doing board games and Battleship and Monopoly. I don't like that game. You would think I probably like it, but I can't stand it. Every one of my family members play that a lot. I play cards, checkers, chess, video games, things that would make it feel like normalcy while we have it. Okay. But if we lose power, board games are going to be real luxury then. Sitting in candlelit room and discussing memories, good memories. Talk about holidays in the past. Talk about, funny things that happened, with your family members. Relive memory lane. Detach yourself from what's going on. Close the shades in your home. Turn off, anything that would otherwise be a distraction, like your phone, and just spend time with your family. And if you have faith in God, spend time with Him. And if you don't know Him, reach out to Him. You might be surprised. He works amazing things in the most unexpected times. And that's the number one reason why I feel good. It's not because I have a lot of money. It's not because I have a lot of stuff. Because I ultimately believe that all these things are leading to an outcome that is, in my faith, good. And I'm not saying that it's good that people are getting sick and dying, that there's war and economies are crashing. They're just symptoms of a process that is what I believe is unfolding. And it may take years. This might be the beginning of all those things. But I believe it's the beginning. I don't think this is just some test run on something. I think whatever has been put in motion is going to continue, and it's going to be a reduction of liberties, not just in America, but worldwide. There's going to be a change in the way we do things from a social standpoint, and ultimately, we're going to have a lot of things removed at some measure of that's going to be uncomfortable, okay? And I don't know exactly what they are, but I know that they're not going to waste it. They didn't waste it when they had 9/11, and they're not going to waste it here. So be diligent, remain calm, go into videos if you can and spend time practicing. There is no videos again for next Wednesday or next weekend. The next video I will do, again, for those that missed it, wasn't paying attention, or doing something else in the beginning of the video, the next commentary video will be on the 13th. Okay? For those of you that are faith-based, enjoy the Passion Week that we're getting ready to start tomorrow with Palm Sunday, and rejoice in the Lord. And if you're not of that persuasion, just enjoy your time with your family next week. Try to go into old videos and spend time researching things that you feel you need to be brushing up on. And that goes for charter members. But ultimately, I think this is a good time for you to just take a step back and not do anything. Don't look at the charts. Don't look for money. Don't look for setups. Don't look to be a better trader. Use this next week as like a vacation from anything that requires or demands your attention. Unplug, especially now. It's very daunting. It's extremely stressful for those individuals that can't balance all these types of things. And I'm not saying, hey, I've been through stuff like this before, but I have put myself through situations that felt more stressful than this, and when they weren't. So I'm kind of like desensitized to all this stuff. And ultimately, I'm at peace at whatever happens. I do what I can to mitigate it and prevent it, and I don't obsessively worry about it after that. And I just take it one day at a time. I take every bit of information that comes into me. I try to weigh it out and formulate an idea that would otherwise make sense to me. And right now, there's so many things popping off, I can't focus on one. So therefore, I know it's dangerous. And if I'm saying it's dangerous and I'm not even willing to be committed to an idea, even in the capacity of just sharing an opinion, then that should be a loud, resounding alert to you all to say, okay, if ICT says there's absolutely no idea what's going on, then it's probably a good idea for me to sit on my hands and do something similar and do nothing. And with that, I'm going to close it. Rest next week. Okay? Rest next week. Be thankful for what you have. Be diligent. Look around. Put your head on a swivel. If something can happen that would be dangerous, in terms of your home, your possessions, do whatever you can to secure that. And don't take any unnecessary risks. And with that, I'll talk to you all next Sunday by way of Twitter and by way of video on the 13th.